she would often sort of say to me, you're not wanted. You were an accident. The very fact that you were born has ruined my life. If my own parent says I'm useless, who will say I'm not? You do not have to live with those neural pathways that have been embedded. You can change them, and there are ways to change them, and there's a place for you in this world. Things that seem to be there to hold us back can be the things that spur us on, Is it a problem or is it a challenge? Please, everyone, make an effort. And whenever you go to a country, and especially if it's India or somewhere where the British have had a stronghold, learn the truth about that. Learn the truth.
Well, Pam, thank you very much for joining me on Success Matters podcast. You were introduced to me by a previous guest, Angela, and we've had a lot of correspondence via LinkedIn and email. On email, you actually sent me a chapter of a book that you have and the kind of journey you've been on. So maybe let's start with, you said you grew up in a very white world, is what you said.
I did.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, the 1970s. God, that shows my age.
It shows mine too as well, actually.
Yeah. The suburb I lived in, I mean, obviously I'm in the Northwest, and there really is no cultural diversity. Even now, where I live, it really is a very sort of middle class, 99% white area. So at that time, I'm sure that racism existed, and I'm sure sort of, Powell had given his horrific Rivers of Blood speech at that time. But of course, I was very young, and I didn't hear that. So for me, you can't really. Racism just wasn't a thing because I didn't know it existed, because I didn't. It wasn't part of my world.
Yeah.
Only kind of like, flyaway collars and
flares and
Birmingham
shoes
for Birmingham bags. Yeah, platform shoes and, lots of hair lacquer. So I think, for me, it was something that just didn't enter my consciousness at all. And it was kind of, my only experience was watching things on television. I was profoundly deaf as well when I was a child. And so the television had to be turned up, the louder than hell button needed to be activated. But, I used to watch programs about the lands, and that gave me a fascination. And languages, I used to think, wow, there's languages in the world. I got a love for languages from that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you say you were profoundly deaf as a child. Did that get treated, or do you have to wear hearing aids or something like that now to be able to hear?
Yeah, I had about 7 operations in the end.
Oh,
I wasn't
wow.
always deaf. Something had happened. And one day, a couple of girls came in from another class, that go and ask the other teacher for a long stand kind of thing. And that joke. And I kind of like sat there chewing my pen and watching these girls, and then I saw but didn't hear the teacher screaming at me. I could tell she was screaming and banging the table, but I didn't know she was screaming at me. And I looked around behind me because everyone was looking this way, and found that I was the only one at the back of the class, and everyone was looking at me. And I just burst into tears. I didn't really understand. I must have been getting by copying the person next to me. But she separated the desks to do some sort of test, I think. And I didn't know where I was. Yeah, so lots of ear operations followed, and I now have 1 hearing aid, but it's not too bad.
Right. Oh, wow. That's quite dramatic, right? To be in that situation where suddenly you've discovered that you're different to the rest, right? Because of the hearing loss. How did that then transpire in the rest of your life as you kind of grew up, and the differences? You've also mentioned to me just now as we were preparing that you've also got ADHD, so that's quite a combination to have had hearing loss and ADHD at the same time.
You've just asked a very interesting question.
Okay.
because we're talking about success.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are talking about success. Yes.
And because I've had all these ear operations, and it was kind of a life of being in and out of clinics and hospitals. And by the way, the last ear operation I had, literally had to cut off my ear to make a new eardrum and sew it back on.
Wow.
Let's just say my glasses don't sit quite straight, because anyway. But when I then got into the high school, the senior school, they actually put me into the very bottom class.
Okay.
They said, they, being the school, that I would have missed a lot through being deaf. But I very quickly realised that what they were doing was baloney. So I kind of went home to my mum and said, I've worked out that there are 7 classes and I'm at the bottom of the 3 remedial classes. And she said, that's ridiculous. So she went in and the head teacher had said, okay, well, let's see how she goes. So that year I thought, right, I'm going to show you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was 11. And I came out the top of the year with a prize for being the top of the year. And as my hearing was improving, I was doing this and I never let go of that. And every year they moved me up and up and up, and I came out in the top class with all my qualifications. So yeah, I suppose there's another reason that another description of success, isn't it? It's not, and in fact, my whole keynote speech is as a motivational speaker is not whatever's been spoken over you in life. Okay, you do not have to live with those neural pathways that have been embedded. You can change them, and there are ways to change them, and there's a place for you in this world.
Yeah.
So sometimes, things that seem to be there to hold us back can be the things that spur us on, Is it a problem or is it a challenge? And yeah, I guess that's success, isn't it?
That certainly is one form of success. And as you were talking, I was reminded of like my own school days. I mean, I was in the top class in school. But there were kids that came, into school year in sort of like the second or third year of high school, who were put in the lower classes and sets because they didn't speak English. The English wasn't their first language, but they were very clever, and they had to work very hard to kind of come through the system. But to your point about, what people say things about you and it kind of sticks with you, for some of them, it stuck with them. And we had a high school reunion about 10 years ago. And one of them kind of said that, I wanted to prove my teachers wrong. I wanted to prove them wrong. I've got this in me. But it still has stuck with him today that he still feels somewhat like he can't do it because of this label that was put on him at that time. So how do you rip that label off?
I don't know if you ever do. I mean, neural pathways. I've read quite a lot about neuroplasticity, and we can change those things. But to me, the way I describe it is what is spoken over you as a child. Now, in the very early years, this is when your brain is actually forming. Okay. Yep. And I think it's like a sponge, and it takes in those ideas far more deeply, and they're embedded more deeply. Mm-hmm. And the way I say this to people, the analogy I use is if you have a sapling tree and you put a metal pole next to it to support it, if you don't remove that, the trunk will grow around that. That's embedded. You can't get it out. So I think there's always going to be something, and it will come up. But you will eke out a lot of it and make new neural pathways. But when those old ones come up and remind you, you will at least be able to have coping mechanisms and go, no, I understand what this is, and I'm saying no to it.
Yeah.
But it's and especially as in my case, things that are spoken over you by your own parent.
Right.
And if they put something negative on you, the messages. If my own parent says I'm useless, who will say I'm not?
Yeah.
And that's a difficult one. But if I can overcome that,
Did you
everyone
did,
can.
did you have that sort of family sort of setup that they would say you're not able, you're useless, as it were?
Yes,
Right.
yes, my mother did.
Okay.
My father was quite scared of hair, so he kind of cowered away.
Right.
And he would just say to me, go away from her, But she would, she would often sort of say to me, you're not wanted. You were an accident. The very fact that you were born has ruined my life. And the worst occasion was she has OCD with cleanliness, so her fingernails were always sparklingly white. And she held up her smallest fingernail to me. And she said, can you see any microscopic dirt under the smallest fingernail?
Okay.
And I said, no, mummy, I was only little. And she said, well, there will be. And it will take the biggest, most powerful microscope in the world to see that. And let me tell you now, there is more goodness in that ultra microscopic dirt than there is in the whole of your being or ever will be.
Oh.
So I was 35 years old when I could first tell someone that story
Wow.
without crying. You hear it said, sticks and stones may break my bones. Words will never hurt me. It is not true.
No.
It is the opposite is true.
Very much so, and especially as you say, when it's said at a young age, it just sits there right inside of you, and it can bubble up at any moment. It can be the smallest of things that can cause it to trigger. Did you have therapy, or how did you overcome that? And
Yeah.
well, kind of felt free to talk about it.
I made friends with a absolutely wonderful clinical psychologist who, when I told her this, she said to me that is child abuse. And I said, no, it isn't. Because, the things you read in the paper
Yeah.
about horrific physical child abuse. And she said, yes, it is.
Hmm.
And then one day, it was crazy. I was just in the shower and suddenly her words came home to me and I just sobbed. And I released everything. I
Right.
said, yes, it wasn't me. It
Yeah.
was her. She had the problem. And then I had some bouts of therapy and that kind of thing as well. It's all helped. It's
Right.
all helped. Yeah. But
Wow.
the biggest thing, of course, was what I wrote in my chapter. That was huge.
Hmm.
That was life changing.
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, as you said it, I thought, just imagine being that child, hearing that at that time, and yeah, as a child, maybe it doesn't quite stick, but it absolutely sticks. If that kind of makes sense, you don't understand the implication as it's said, but the long term implication is just huge and humongous. So what was your career path, and what do you do now, Pam?
Well, I was obviously a very clever child, but that was suppressed. So I was told I had to go out to work straight after school. So I did my further education on an apprenticeship in a huge international company. And it was great because when you don't really know what you want to do, you get a great grounding. You see how a huge company works and you work in all the different departments and you learn what you like, what you're good at, and that was where I learned my presenting skills and teaching and training skills and writing skills as well. They
Right.
sent me on all sorts of things, journalistic courses, and I ended up into another large corporate company. And throughout my career, in one form or another, I've been marketing and writing. And now I can now teach other people to do that because myself and the husband started a branch of an IT support company and it took off. It was amazing. But I brought in all the customers through a combination of LinkedIn the way I wrote on LinkedIn, and the way I network with people and people skills.
Mm-hmm.
And now I teach other people exactly how to bring in all that business as well.
Right. Okay. And you're also a keynote speaker, you said.
Yes.
What
Yes.
is it? What are you covering in keynote speeches?
Okay, so I can be hired to just go in and talk about LinkedIn and how it works, or networking.
Yeah.
But my absolute keynote speech is to, as I said, show people that there is a place for them in this world.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what is spoken over them,
Yeah.
they can rebuild new neural pathways. And also within that, I use my story of what happened to me in India, and I encourage other people to see acts of reaching out in kindness and educating themselves about different cultures and religions. That opens the door to many more acts of kindness, and that gives you in turn a sense of fulfillment and belonging, and the whole thing loops around.
Right. Okay. What happened to you in India that made that change?
Okay. So, gosh, is it really getting on for about 30 years ago? I was kind of slung on a backpack and was going across South India, and I don't do touristy things or beach holidays. I would rather go to places where we don't see a lot of tourists and immerse myself in really see a place as it is, not the Disney-fied version that is Pom for
Mm-hmm.
tourists, if you know what I mean. So, of course, I ended up in lots of sort of way, way, way out of the way, tiny villages, poor villages, all sorts of things, and just took a family there to heart. I just, I don't know what happened. They say that agape is the word to describe the love of God,
Mm-hmm.
however you think, whatever you think God is. And I walked into this shambles of a hut with cardboard for a ceiling and no glass in the windows, no running water, no toilet facilities. And this family were living, and I just, something put them on my heart.
Right.
And I stayed in touch with them. And no matter how much I pressed, they would not. I kept saying, "What can I send you from England?" And they would not take anything until, many, many letters later. I still have them all,
Nice.
box full. And the English was getting better and better. And one of these letters said, "Look, we have fallen victim to a scam. In which one of the boys in the family was promised a job, but he had to get a return flight to the Maldives and take quite a bit of money with him."
Mm-hmm.
The neighbours. You have to remember, this is 30 years ago. No one in the village had a television or a telephone, let alone a bank account. And banking was done kind of, you go to a wedding, you get so many lakhs rupees, and they buy the jewellery and they wear the
Yeah.
jewellery. And this is how the economy went around.
Mm-hmm.
So they offered their jewellery to take to the pawnbroker.
Right.
So our lad was to go off for this interview, get the job, and pay whatever this strange work permit, and then pay the money back, and then after they would get their jewelry back, and then the family would benefit from the income. But the whole thing was a scam. And these rogues robbed his money when he got there and put it back on his return flight.
Right.
And all the family asked me to do was pray. But I didn't feel that was good enough.
Yeah.
And I had seen some crafts around those villages. So I sent £50 in an envelope. No banks. Quite a miracle that nothing ever got intercepted, because this is how we did the whole thing. And I said, I know you're hungry. I know sometimes you have no food. Don't give this to the pawnbroker. Please don't buy food. I want you to trust me and buy £50 worth. I knew how much it cost. And when the postman knocked on the door with this huge packet, I was shaking, took them into work, emptied them onto my desk. Everyone just went, wow. Started buying these things. Money was raining down on my desk. My friend got involved. And we started to say, here's some money. Pay the pawnbroker. Send some more of these. And we carried on doing this until we paid off the debt.
Wow.
But when I went back, I hadn't realised the enormity of what I'd done. So when I reached the village, the whole village, because I didn't think about the fact that they were also getting the jewelry. So the whole village were out waiting for me. And I was absolutely mortified, thinking, oh, I'm not Princess Diana, just put the kettle on. Not that they had a kettle.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then, of course, Kingfisher Beer has a lot to answer for. Because once I had pushed its velvety fingers down my throat, I thought, well, do this again. And then we brought one of the boys out here, put him through college, got him some qualifications, sent him back. Then he got a really good job. And he rose and rose and rose. And now the family have a much bigger house. But this is getting, they have everything. They have car, they have just, the whole life is completely changed. But back then, when I went back to the village, the mum of the family, and for anybody listening who doesn't know, I call her Amma, which means mum, and she just came running out of this hut, and she kind of took the little part of her sari, and she just wrapped it around me, and she just didn't leave go. She didn't leave go. She was cooking with one hand, and she had me, and she just kept kissing me, and she was crying.
Yeah.
And she was feeding me with her own fingers, and it was like, this is what it's like to have a mum. This is what it's like to be loved by a mum. And in that moment, everything inside me changed. It was a pivotal point.
Yeah.
I knew that I was worth something, and yeah. So it's quite a long story. It's as short as I can make it.
No, this is amazing. It's amazing. And that chance encounter that you had such a huge impact on the life of not just that family, but the village as well. And they say it takes a village to raise a child. And in this case, absolutely, the village helped that child. It didn't quite work out as they had planned, but then luckily they had you doing something which, whatever it was, guidance you had to say, okay, let's do this and help them with the trade. It's amazing what you've done there. I'm assuming you're still in touch with them and in touch with the whole family. Yeah.
Yes, I am. And there's a whole family WhatsApp group, and I'm the only here's another nice word for your listeners, Gordy, which means a white woman in the group. Yeah. So a lot of it, I can understand a fair bit, but I speak more Hindi than their language. Their language is Malayalam. So.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm going to ask you now, what does success mean to you? I think that was a brilliant example of success, but is there something else that success means to you?
I think for me, success is finding pockets of happiness in life. Whether that is, accept that happiness is not 100% of the time. But know that you have a place in this world, you can make a difference, and do some kind works, because believe me, the feeling that you will get from that, you do have a purpose and a place in this world. And when you realize that, that's success.
Yeah.
I love helping people. My daughter said to me last night in the car, Mum, you've helped so many people. You are always helping people. And I said, like who? Because you don't keep a record. And she said, well, and she started with the family in India, and then she said, she started to list all the, and I said, oh yeah. And I said, but you know what? It brings me as much pleasure. And when my clients, when I'm teaching them LinkedIn skills, tell me that they have one business, or when they go, wow, I didn't know we could do this, I know I'm helping them. I'm just a born helper, and it gives me so much pleasure. So believe you can change neural pathways. No matter how bad, if you feel bad about yourself, reach out and help someone else. You'll see how things will change.
That's a very important point, actually. If you're feeling bad about yourself, reach out and help someone else. It changes your whole perspective.
Yeah. And I have no idea if this is the sort of thing you were expecting.
There is no expectation on this podcast, Pam. It's just whichever direction we want to go in. So I have a question. I have a tradition. I ask a previous guest to ask a question for my next guest. And the question that they asked was, who was or is the most significant mentor that has entered your life, and how did they shape it for you?
Oh, well, I would have to say that was my friend Carol, who is a very highly sought after clinical psychologist, who not only helped me to put what had happened in its place and move forward, but also was the first person to diagnose my ADHD and say, we need to talk.
Right.
And then I got the help that I needed with that. I was very much a doormat because of what's happened in my past. I didn't feel worthy. She taught me assertiveness skills, transactional analysis skills, dealing with complex situations. She's been amazing.
Oh, wow. I think I need to meet this Carol Lee. I mean, it sounds amazing.
Well, maybe she can be a podcast guest.
That would be brilliant. That would be great. Your ADHD, how does it manifest itself, and how does it affect your day-to-day world?
It's much, much worse since the menopause. But you mentioned earlier that having ADHD and this deafness and this background with my mum being a bad combination, because inherent in ADHD, for many ADHD people, is a thing called RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Oh, right.
So you blow criticism out of all proportion, and it manifests as physical pain. Timekeeping, we see time in a different way. We can't really estimate how much time something will take.
Okay.
And focus, because you have 100 voices in your head, and you have to focus on one thing, like, for example, getting the proposal out. And all these voices are saying, but what about this, but what about this? So you have to do a lot of note taking.
Okay.
I'd written that down. Let's leave it over there and concentrate on this, and all sorts of other coping mechanisms. But that's just a few of the things.
Wow. I didn't realize that people with ADHD can also have this rejection syndrome, which
Yes.
that is an even worse combination, isn't it? With the
Yes.
way in which your mum was towards you.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for my next guest?
Yeah. I thought, given that I've talked about travel changing my life, what is the most interesting place you've traveled to, or person that you met on those travels, and what significance has it had on your life, if any?
Wow. Okay. That's a cool question. And is that India one the one that really kind of stands out for you, or are there other experiences you've had on travels that's
There are. I've been to North Africa, Vietnam, Australia, so many places in the world. But India is the only place I return to, and it feels like home.
right?
And yeah, and I just love languages. So whenever I can, I'm practicing Hindi. So yeah,
Your Hindi is probably a lot better than mine. That's probably for sure.
a lot of people, it causes a lot of shock
Yeah.
because nobody.
Yeah, I can imagine people talking about you in Hindi, thinking, "Oh yeah," and then suddenly you respond in Hindi. It's like, "Oh crap." Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's fun. It's fun. You go into a shop and they are trying their very, very best in English, maybe to sell you something, and you kind of respond with, "Hi, मुझको ये चाहिए, लेकिन बहुत महंगे हैं." And
And for the benefit of those listeners of ours that don't understand Hindi, you said,
I said, "Yes, I'd like it, but it's very, very expensive."
Yeah.
And the shock is the eyes widen. And then they will shout everyone else over who works in the shop and say, "Come and listen to this."
Yeah.
Gory speaking Hindi, and it's fun. And then you get some great conversations and make lots of friendships. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Just make an effort, please everyone, make an effort. And whenever you go to a country, and especially if it's India or somewhere that where the British have had a stronghold, learn the truth about that. Learn the truth.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. And learn about the culture and the religions and let that enrich your life.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Yes, because of the victor always writes the history, right? And that's the thing, that there's a whole other set of history that has been suppressed in the results of that writing. So it's very important to see all the sides of it.
I would highly recommend a book called Empire Land by Satnam Sanghera.
Yeah.
It should be on the school syllabus, believe you me.
Yeah. Well, Pam, we're at the top of our time now. It's been a very fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for sharing your story so deeply as well. If people want to get in touch with you and turn their LinkedIn network into their blinking net worth, how should they get in touch with you, and what's the best way for them to contact you?
Send me a connection request on LinkedIn and then send me a DM and find out, what I can do to help them. All sorts of different packages, and yeah. And I'm just a people person, as you can see. I just love working with people.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. We'll put the details of your LinkedIn in the show notes and on the screen as well. So, yes, thank you once again, Pam, for joining me on Success Matters podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
To find your success, contact me at info@successmatterscoaching.com. That's info@successmatterscoaching.com.